Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our ISAC educational webinar. Today, we are excited to have Preservation with Purpose, how historic preservation can make a tangible difference in your county. With us in the studio are Brenda Hollingsworth, a Madison County Historic Preservation Commission, Paula Moore with the State Historical Society of Iowa, and Aaron Price, who is a member of the Madison County Board of Supervisors. First up, we'll have Paula Moore.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having us here and giving us the opportunity to talk about historic preservation with your audience. So we're very happy to be here. As Rachel said, my name is Paula Moore, and I work at the State Historical Society of Iowa. And my formal title is Certified Local Government Coordinator, which doesn't suggest historic preservation at all, but what it really means is that I work with more than 90 historic preservation commissions around the state, and I counted this morning, and 27 of those 90 are preservation commissions who are working at the county level, and then the rest are municipal historic preservation commissions. I've really been involved in historic preservation most of my life. When I was about 10 years old, my parents bought an old schoolhouse and turned it into a family home. And so I grew up with historic preservation and then took the bold career move to be a historic preservationist. And I very much enjoy working in the field and think that Iowa has such a rich history to preserve. And so we'd like to talk with you all today about how to do that and using Madison County as one of our most successful county preservation commissions. And you'll learn more about all the work that they've been able to do. So Rachel already introduced our speakers today, and here are their names. And so this is really the first slide that I wanted to show. When we talk about the historic preservation movement in this country, I mean, it really goes back to the late 18th century. In 1787, the Massachusetts Historical Society was founded. So from the very beginning, people in our country were interested in preserving our history. And then, of course, we have Mount Vernon, which was an important preservation effort in the 1850s. That's George Washington's house. But a lot of us think about the modern preservation movement as something that is born after World War II. And, of course, there are dramatic changes that we see in this country following the end of World War II. We have space exploration. The bottom slide is a view of a very large public housing development in St. Louis. So that's supposed to represent urban renewal, which happened in this country in the 1950s and the 1960s, and really, in many cases, devastated large parts of our urban core. And then the transportation systems, the freeways and the interstates that were developed after World War II also had really a negative impact on our historic fabric in this country. But in response, in the 1960s, the modern preservation movement is born. And so there are a couple of important events that are happening in the 1960s that really set all of this into motion. A lot of buildings were demolished, and maybe one of the most famous ones was Penn Station in New York City, which was a huge, huge monolithic train station that was built in the early 20th century. And there was a big fight in New York City to try to save that building. Ultimately, it was torn down, and it was such a substantial and well-built building that it took 3 years to tear this building down, which tells you something about the quality of the architecture. Another important event was the publication of a book called The Death and Life of Great American Cities. And this book was published in 1961 by Jane Jacobs, whose photograph you can see here. And Jane Jacobs lived in New York City, and really began to understand that old neighborhoods have a patina and an organic life to them that make them really great places to live. So she was very much against urban renewal, and her book was very influential in getting people to rethink the value of historic neighborhoods. This all culminated in 1966 when Lyndon Johnson signed the National Historic Preservation Act, and so that's that film strip on the right-hand edge of the slide. So the National Historic Preservation Act, as I said, was signed in 1966, and what it did was pretty basic in the very beginning. It formalized a preservation program between the federal government, represented by the Department of the Interior and the National Park Service. So that's the federal entity. And then the Act also established a state historic preservation office in each state. And so it was about that time that Iowa's state preservation office was created. And the early work of the staff in those offices was focused on just going out and seeing what we had in the country and recording it. So filling out site forms and taking photographs to do a catalog of all the old buildings in our country. And then important for the purpose of this webinar, in 1980 an amendment was passed to the National Historic Preservation Act, and that added the local government as a partner, a preservation partner. And that created the Certified Local Government Program, which we're going to spend some time talking about today. Here is a map of the whole country, and the green denotes all the Certified Local Government programs in the nation. And you can see that in Iowa we've got a lot of green. If I had given this presentation a year ago, I would have told you that Iowa had the largest Certified Local Government Program in the country, but we've been surpassed by Georgia and Utah, so they now have more CLGs than we do. But we still have a very strong program, and it puts us in good stead with regard to preservation. And so I talked about the three partners, the federal partner, the state partner, and then the local partner. So this is a Venn diagram that just shows how all of this sort of works together. So at the top, I have the local partnerships represented by certified local governments, local preservationists who perhaps are unaffiliated, but they're just working by themselves, historic preservation commissions. Iowa has a great network of Main Street organizations. There are nonprofits, COGS, RC&Ds. And then at the state level is my office, Main Street, Iowa. Preservation Iowa is our statewide nonprofit historic preservation organization. And then at the national level, there are many, many, many partners, including the National Park Service, the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and then a whole slew of other organizations that are focused on maybe more narrowly defined historic preservation issues like historic theaters or churches, or that kind of thing. So, so let's look a little more closely at the certified local government. So this is a local government. It's either county or city, which partners with the state and federal government. And what the certified local government program does is that it institutionalizes historic preservation at the local level. And one of the things that happens if a county comes into the certified local government program is that they create a historic preservation commission made up of appointed, unpaid volunteers from the community who are interested in assisting with historic preservation. And that commission is an arm of the local government. There's very little that you have to create from scratch if you decide to come into the program, if your county decides they want to come into the program. There is a framework that is established by the National Historic Preservation Act. And then the Secretary of the Interior has a whole range of sort of standards and guidelines for how to list a property on the National Register, how to successfully and sensitively rehabilitate a building. And so there is a lot of good guidance that you can simply adopt if you choose to come into the program. So some of the benefits. So this really facilitates preservation at the local level. And so it's the local government and the Historic Preservation Commission that decides what are your priorities and what's important to your local history that you want to preserve. Through this program, we also provide technical assistance and education to cities and counties in the program. And then there are funding incentives. So we have 2 grant programs that certified local governments can tap. One is just a special grant program that is certified local government money. That comes to us from the National Park Service, and then we sub-grant it out to certified local governments around the state. And then we also have a state preservation grant fund. This comes out of the REAP fund, and I'm sure you're all familiar with REAP. Our preservation fund is called the Historical Resource Development Program. And so if a county government or a city government wants to apply for that money, you have to be in the Certified Local Government Program. So those are the incentives. So in addition to doing preservation projects, the Commission really serves as the preservation voice in community decisions. So they really need to be at the table when your elected officials are thinking about doing maybe a courthouse rehabilitation, for example. It's really important to bring that commission to the table because they're going to have good information about good preservation practice and good ideas that can make it a stronger preservation project. The same is true for property owners in your community, people who own old buildings. They can turn to the commission and get information and ideas about funding and other programs. And then we also put a heavy emphasis on public education. So a lot of our certified local governments will sponsor preservation workshops in the community. So for example, the City of Washington applied for some grant money, and they were able to bring in a specialist who taught how to successfully rehabilitate a historic window. And the idea here is to get people to save their old windows rather than removing that important historic fabric and maybe putting in a vinyl window, which is only a temporary solution. So being proactive with public education is something that we really emphasize. In terms of meeting the certified local government requirements, the commission and the elected officials need to enforce that local ordinance that was passed to create the commission in the first place and set up the historic preservation program. Because we believe so strongly that you can't protect what you don't know you have, we put a strong emphasis on maintaining an inventory of properties in your community. So these are properties that maybe deserve further investigation to see if they're eligible for the National Register. But knowing what you have makes you proactive rather than reactive. We like to see commissions nominate properties to the National Register of Historic Places. Have some sort of preservation activity throughout the year. You know, do one project really well or do 5 smaller projects. It's really up to the commission to figure that out, but we like them to do something rather than just, you know, having the 3 meetings each year. And then maintaining the commission qualifications, so having those 3 meetings at a minimum each year, communicating with the state, and then there is a requirement to do annual training. And one of the best opportunities for our Historic Preservation Commissions to get training is to come to our Preserve Iowa Summit. This is the statewide preservation conference that we hold in a different part of the state each year. And so these are just a few images of the summit that we had in Davenport. We had nearly 400 people there, and folks were able to learn about historic wallpaper, archaeology, how to prepare a historic tax credit project, how to do masonry restoration. There's always an awards program as well. So highly educational. We keep the registration fee very low. It's $50 for a 3-day conference, which is quite the deal. And I've begun to understand that maybe more important than all of that is the opportunity for our commission members to network with their peers, and so that they can understand that, you know, the challenges that they're experiencing in their community are not unique, that everybody has these concerns, and there are a lot of creative ideas out there. I'm just quickly going to highlight 2 county CLGs that I think are doing an exceptional job. Clayton County has been a certified local government since 1985. And one of the things that they have done recently is they've gone out and cataloged all of their stone structures countywide, and they've created this website. So the residents of the county, as well as tourists from outside the county, can look at this website and see pictures and some basic information about all these wonderful stone buildings throughout the county. So this is a great, great tool for heritage tourism to encourage people to come and learn about your community's heritage and architecture. And then Van Buren County came into the program in the early 1990s, and they also do a lot with heritage tourism. They realize that that's one of their real assets. And one of the important sites in Van Buren County is this old pottery from the late 19th century, which continues as a working pottery, but it's also a historic site, so people can come and learn about this old craft. And then the County Commission did this sign project a couple of years ago where they went out and marked all of the, I say ghost towns in the county, but some of these towns actually never got beyond a plat map. They were just paper towns. But these are very nicely researched signs that sit out along the roadside, and people can pick up a brochure at the visitor center and drive around and learn about the county's history in that way. And there's a really interesting drawing there at the lower left-hand corner. It's the town of Upton, and there's clearly some sort of altercation going on the street there. I don't know exactly what that means, but that's one of the illustrations that was uncovered as the commission was researching this project. So before I turn it over to Brenda for her to talk about the Madison County Preservation Commission, I just wanted to ask if anybody had any questions before we move on. Okay, all right. Well, I'll turn it over to Brenda then.
So I'm up. I'm very pleased to be here today. The certified local government slide that I have up right there is just to tell you the 2 things I'm going to talk about today is how we've used the program and how it's made a positive difference in our county. I did want to point out on this slide that sometimes if you don't already have a certified local government, you might not know this. Certified local government and the Madison County Historic Preservation Commission are different names for the same thing. One describes the relationship, and the certified local government is sort of the relationship of the organization to local government, and then each county has its own name. So for instance, if you're from Warren County, yours would be the Warren County Historic Preservation Commission. That causes a lot of confusion locally, so I just thought I'd share that up front. The certified local government program has made a positive difference, and before I go into those positive differences, I want to tell you just a little bit about myself, because if you're interested in starting your own program, you might be interested in recruiting some local folks. And so my qualifications are pretty nominal, and I'm just saying this because I think that you've got lots of people in your community that could do this work. As a wife and mother and grandmother, I've learned to do time management. Any of you who are parents know that that's a skill that's helpful when you're running any kind of a nonprofit organization. And then as a researcher and a farm record keeper, I've learned to document and keep really good records. And when you're writing grants and involved in good grant administration, that's an important skill to have. I'm a community volunteer, and I'm sure that many of you have retired people in your communities who would be glad to give back to community. This was not one of the areas that was on my horizon when I first retired, but it became evident to me that it was an area that somebody needed to step up to the plate and do this. And I had no idea I was a preservationist until I got involved and discovered what exactly it meant. I do have a design degree, but any skill set will work here. If you have an engineering degree, it doesn't really matter. All kinds of skill sets can be of benefit to preservation. And then as a retired chamber director, that was something that gave me sort of a head start, because I already have established relationships and have built trust with local officials. So my point is, anyone willing to make a time commitment to this could do it, and those are the kinds of people you want to look for. This is a great group of people that I get to work with, and you can see that we're typically around the same age, and we're working on that. We're actually working to engage high school students and middle school students right now. But this worked for us because our first project was getting our downtown on the National Historic Register, and so what we needed were people who were willing to do research and devote large blocks of time to standing out in the cold taking notes. So we have an archaeologist on our commission, we have an architect. We tried to get a lot of different skill sets represented. We have a retired DMAC professor, we have a retired school teacher, we have Sherlock Holmes over there in the left-hand corner in the first row who can research anything. She's incredible. And then we have one poor guy who didn't really intend to get involved at all. Ron is in the second row there to the left. And he happened to be at the Madison County Historical Society. We met there on Wednesdays for 2 years and did research. And Ron was back in the corner doing his own research and just got interested in what we were doing, and so we got him involved, and he turned out to be a tremendous, tremendous help. We also have a newspaper editor, we have a contractor, we have somebody who runs the local winery, just a broad base, and we have somebody who's a political activist, so we've got some great membership there. And these are some of the things that all of our volunteers have in common. They love their community and want to give back. They are passionate about history and willing to make that time commitment that's necessary to really get things moving and get things accomplished. And as I said, a real variety of skill sets is an asset. So how have we used this program? Well, Paul has already reviewed for you the things that you need to be aware of. We got our local ordinance in place and just educated everybody about what that was. And I will say that we were kind of slow starting. The original certified local government in our county began, I think, in 1983. And that was a group of committed businesswomen who worked to get the covered bridges on the National Historic Register. And then it sort of fell into disuse and nobody did anything with it. We resurrected it in 2009. I think there's a term for that, Paula. It's not resurrected. I can't remember what it is. Reinstated, recertified. There we go. There we go. And talked to the supervisors, and they were willing to work with us and got the proper paperwork in place and the people nominated and appointed. And then for a period of about 2 years, we had people that would drop off and start again and drop off. And so it was kind of slow getting going. One of the first things we did was we hosted a workshop in our community about how to nominate properties to the National Historic Register, and that sort of jump-started us. So then we began on our own downtown, and I'll tell you that our first grant writing experience, it was a positive one, but we didn't get the grant. We actually didn't know what we were doing, but that's okay. And I just want to say that because I want you to know that we have not always been successful in some of the things we've attempted, but that doesn't stop us. We just try again. So we did write another grant, and you'll see up there we started the project anyway without the money. We thought, well, we're going to do this, so let's just start the research. And we had a very large inventory area. We knew that we'd have to research about 104 buildings, so it wouldn't hurt to get started. The second grant was successful. We did receive that grant money, and I believe that was a certified local government grant that we got to do that project. And that was an intensive survey and evaluation. If you want to forward that, you'll see, oh, forward it one more. There's the area that we surveyed. So it was a large area, a 9-block area surrounding the courthouse, and that's why it took us so long. So if you'll just back up one, back up, there we go. So then the second phase, after we completed that inventory, we kind of had an idea that we definitely had something worth nominating, and we wrote another grant. This one was the one that Paula mentioned. That was a Historic Resources Development grant that actually helped us write the nomination, and it helped us hire a consultant who guided us and shepherded the whole thing through the hoops that it needed to go through. It was completed in 2005, and so then we just need to forward to. And there you can see we ended up with 74 contributing buildings, 7 non-contributing, a contributing object, which is the bell that was removed from the bell tower. And then there were 3 buildings that were already listed on the National Historic Register, and we just updated the information on those. So that's where we started with our certified local government. It was a big project, and obviously we aren't afraid of big projects. And one of the reasons we weren't is because we experienced tremendous support from the State Historic Preservation Office, from Paula and her team there. We were always able to ask questions, and we had a great consultant that we worked with on that project. And these are some of the projects that were spin-off as a result of that. In our research, we discovered that Madison County has a tremendous had a tremendous impact on Underground Railroad activity, and we started at the state office and found about 15 names of people, and by the time we were finished with that research, we had 90 names of people that we could document had been involved in some way or another with the Underground Railroad. So that's a really fun project that's taken off on its own, and we've taken that one into the local middle school program, and we're working with a history teacher. With the students, we work with them on their History Day project, and a lot of them do related to the Underground Railroad in Madison County, so that they have it in context. So that's been lots of fun. And then you can see that there are other projects that are spin-offs from that. One of the most fun things we did, and actually more work than the nomination, was the Preserve Iowa Summit. And I don't want to scare anyone off from hosting that. It was a great experience, but we're a small rural town, and that was 360 some people coming in. So we worked very hard to find locations in historic buildings for all those workshops, and had a great time. It was fun, and probably jump-started us on other projects. That Historic District bronze plaques is fun, because after we were listed on the National Historic Register, we went around to people and asked if they'd like to have a plaque. So we put together this program, wrote a grant from our local foundation so that they funded a portion of the cost, and then we matched, as a Historic Preservation Commission, we matched that. So the plaques are beautiful. They're about 5 inches by 7 inches. I'm sorry, I should have taken a picture of one. And they have the historic name of the building and the current name and the date it was built. And those all, we actually have 42 in place and another 20 on order, so that was a popular project. Plaques ended up costing people about $70. And then currently we have a research library archival preservation project going on, and that's to help our local historic museum, because they have this wonderful library where we spent 2 years researching, but most of it's in Tupperware containers. And so we're helping them scan all that information and get it into a museum software so that we have a finding aid, so that it's easy for public to come in and do research there. And that's actually being funded by a Historic Resources Development grant as well. So the difference is that that's a more current picture. You saw the one earlier. We've done some work on our courthouse and the dome and the roof that we're excited about, and we'll continue to do some work on it. But the next slide shows really the benefits, I think, that have happened locally from these efforts. The first one is that it creates pride of ownership. We've seen that when we started talking to people about the plaque project, and actually earlier than that, when they realized we were getting it on the National Historic Register. There just isn't anything like a home improvement project to generate goodwill and cooperation, and so we've seen a ton of that. It promotes good stewardship. Not everybody understands the importance of keeping historic fabric in their buildings. There's a learning curve on this, and so we've certainly allowed a lot of grace for property owners as they learn this, but they're responding really well. They want to do good things to their building. They want to keep historic fabric when they can, so we're working with many business owners, 22 as a matter of fact right now, to help them renovate the facades of their buildings. We've applied for a community development block grant to make that happen. And then obviously that's going to stimulate other revitalization efforts. Our downtown theater has been purchased and is being renovated. Great deal of excitement about that. We have a new Iowa Quilt Museum on the square in the historic building. So lots of momentum, and this has also created public-private investment. So both city and county government is involved, the grant is involved, and private partnerships are involved as people invest their own money in these things. It also attracts investment. It's one of the favorite things of our local development director to talk about our downtown square, because people are interested in living someplace that offers amenities and has a particular character. And heritage tourism, if you haven't heard the recent figures, 75% of all tourists travel in relationship to heritage tourism. And so the more we can tell that story about those cultural things that are unique to our areas, the more visitors will be interested. And then the last one is pretty much self-explanatory. Are there questions that you might have at this point before Erin talks? Okay.
Well, I think we did get one question, and the question is, how do we know if our county is a certified local government? Well, I just would encourage you to shoot me an email, and I would be glad to look that up and let you know. My email address is paula.mohr, M-O-H-R, @iowa.gov. And at the end, we'll have a slide with all of our email addresses if you want to contact us with questions later on. So very good question, and I hope to hear from you.
All right, so it's my turn. I am Aaron Price. I've been a county supervisor since 2013 in Madison County. I have some of my historic preservation qualifications on the slide that Brenda was talking about earlier. As you can see, there's nothing on there regarding historic preservation at all. But some of those things, you know, have helped me to appreciate some of the work that our Historic Preservation Commission has been doing. When I was a military, in the military, oftentimes we'd get to live on a military bases, and you would have all these old buildings that they built out on there, and they were, because I was in the Army, they were usually red brick and white columns and white trimmings and all that. And my family really enjoyed living on a military base. And you can also see that, you know, my education has nothing to do with historic preservation. I focused on physical geography. I like to know where things are in the world. I have 2 master's degrees, one in engineering management, so that we can you can manage projects and get things done. And then business ethics and compliance was an interesting thing that just kind of came along, so I did it, and now I have that. So let's move on to the next slide here. I have to say that I am a reluctant historic preservationist. I really didn't want anything to do with it up front. When I got elected to be a county supervisor, I found out that it was one of my duties to kind of oversee all of the properties that the county owns. I was glad to hear that we had a historic preservation office or commission that would help out on some of that stuff. So I thought it would be one of those things where I could cursory just punch the ticket and move on. If they came in and needed some funding, we could work on helping them get some funding to do with the project. So I just want to tell you that I was very reluctant in doing this. But since then, in the last few years, when as I've worked with our Historic Commission, I have found that it ties us to the past. I really like that. I like to look at these buildings and these structures and that, and think about who we are and where we came from, and I like to see how we built and created things over time. So if in my mind, if we go in and we, in the essence of building a new modernness and we bulldoze everything and rebuild everything back up, we lose that historic fabric. We lose that link to our past. And as I've gone around in the county, and for example, this picture here is Clark's Tower that was built. When I first moved to the county, my family just liked going there, just because we like to hike up the hill to it and climb up to the top and look out over it. But as I've learned a little bit more about who built it and why they built it, and and it gives me a bond and a tie to the community that I live in. It instills pride in who I am and where I am. And when I travel, I go out and I'm talking to people and they're asking me, well, where are you from? And I tell them I'm from Iowa. I'm from Madison County, Iowa. And of course, Bridges of Madison County pops up, and then John Wayne pops up, and and then I'm able to go into a lot of other things, talk about our historic courthouse, and over time, I've been able to even find out really interesting stories about our courthouse and what happened there. So I just find that it is so interesting now that I have changed my attitude. I am not as a reluctant historic preservationist as I used to be. I am actually willing to help out. I'm actually willing to do a little bit of research. I'm put some things in motion and make something happen so that we will continue to have these great historic items in our county for our future generations who are going to be coming here, and for visitors that come to our county. Next slide, please. So why take an active role in preservation? I'm going to come at it from an elected county official standpoint at first. At first, you know, I was kind of a little hesitant about it because I'd heard all the horror stories. Yeah, you put your building on the National Historic Register, and then you can't ever do anything with it. It's going to cost you way much more money to fix it, to live in it. You know, you can't bring it up to snuff to, you know, make it more comfortable for you, and how all those things, all those horror stories that I heard, and then I was kind of reluctant to listen to. But as an elected official, I started sitting in the courthouse of Madison County, and I started looking around and learning about where things came from and how they got put there, and who, you know, like our black walnut stair that was carved by a judge. You know, I mean, that's quite interesting. You know, the judge, instead of just judging people, he was out there doing woodworking and contributed as a community member to our courthouse, and it's still there today, 100+ years later. I also noticed that there were several different maintenance items that needed to be done to our building, and I didn't know how to do it. So I called up a contractor, said, hey, you know, what it would take to, it was our stairs in our county courthouse, hey, what it would take to, you know, sand out our stairs, put some polish back on them, make them nice. And they gave us a bid, and in the bid, I'm reading the bid, and it's talking about, well, we're going to rip out this molding, and we're going to put pine molding back in. You know, and the modern contractor, I'm not trying to say that they did it bad, but, you know, in the effort of making a profit, yeah, you know, you just rip things out and put back new. I mean, you can do that really quick, but here's this 100+-year-old wood molding that survived all these years. I couldn't bring myself to have that happen. So I got more interested in that, and I started pursuing, okay, well, how do we do it correctly? So I looked it up on the internet. I made a few phone calls. I called a bunch of people in the Park Service. I started learning about the different documents that were out there, preservation documents that were out there. I started calling the state SHPO's office. Hey, who can I talk to? They gave me some good names of different people. You know, how can I preserve this? And so as I became more interested in it, I got more educated in it, and I wanted to make sure that our historic courthouse was taken care of so that it would last another 100 years for the people of Madison County to be able to utilize, and for the people of Iowa and other states to come and enjoy and see the wonderful historic nature and fabric that has been there for a century and hopefully for another couple centuries. So as an elected official, we have a balance of competing resources. We have lots of buildings, lots of roads, lots of you name it, lots of requests for funding, and oftentimes it is easy to say, oh, we will put that off. We won't fix this right now because, oh, we can go another year. Oh, you know, it's $50,000 to fix this, and we don't really have it, so we'll just kick that can down the road. I'm not blaming them. Sometimes, you know, as a supervisor, I have to make those decisions. But as I went throughout the courthouse and saw the damage that was done to the courthouse by doing that, I made a firm commitment to myself and to my community that I would take care of these properties to the best of my ability. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to go out and dedicate, you know, half our budget to fixing our courthouse. We can't do that. But we started with figuring out how to get a historic structure report for our courthouse. As an elected official and a non-preservationist, I had no idea how to take care of a historic building at all. But I found through the research and the people that I've called that one of the great things to do is a historic structure report. And so I found a way to be able to do that. I got the county to put it on our agenda, and we got a little bit of money towards that, and talked to the Historic Preservation Commission, and they're willing to help out there so that we can get a historic structure report so that we can take care of our building according to the preservation standards that have been established by the Park Service, the good best practices, so that our building will continue to remain viable. One of the other things that I noticed that historic preservation does is on the economic side, we oftentimes would like to go in and just build something new. Tear down the old, build something new. Well, what I've noticed over my lifetime is the stuff that we build new tends to only last like 30 to 50 years. The stuff that's been there for 100 years already is built solid, and it's going to stay there if you take care of it. And so like our courthouse, you know, there's been some talk that, well, you know, we do need a new courthouse, so let's just go build a new building, and yeah, you can do that. You know, it might be cheaper for a little while, but what you're doing is you're taking a huge cost and you're pushing it down the road, because in 30 to 50 years, you know, you're still going to have to pay the money to maintain that new building, and in 30 to 50 years, you're going to start having to make major changes to that cheaper building that you built. But if you take that same money and you invest it into your historic structure, it's going to last another 100 years. And so over time, I think, and I don't have anything to back me up on this, guys, but I think that by restoring that building, that historic building, you're in the long run, you're actually going to be spending less money to be able to do that. And I hate to talk about the economics from that standpoint, but that's what it is. You know, you can't do anything without money, and that's what we need. Wanted to also touch a little bit about the cultural side of it. These historic buildings, they're a representation of history. I like to sit in my office in the courthouse, and I like to look around at the little trim and all the different colors and everything that's in there, and just think, looking at the floors, like, who's walked on that floor? You know, of course, my family history is not from Iowa, but as I look at that floor, I wonder about it. Whose grandpa walked that floor? Whose great grandpa walked that floor? You know, whose ancestor carved that little piece of molding and put it up in this building? You know, I like to see the little progress that we've made. There's little gas pipes that stick out of our walls where they used to use gas lighting in our building. Wow, you know, I can now flick a light switch, and I think about how the people sat in that room and had their meetings, and the lamp burning over there, the smoke going up, and all this stuff that's happening. And so from a cultural standpoint, I think it's very important for us to preserve our history so that we know where we came from and we know where we're going to go to, and we have something that we can point to and feel pride in and identify with the people who came before us, who are with us today, and those who are going to come in the future. So I think historic preservation strengthens our communities. You know, oftentimes when I'm out and about in the community and I hear things, I don't hear, what I hear is, wow, you guys got a great courthouse down there. That's a beautiful building. I don't hear things about like the new structures. Oh, your fairway's nice. I don't hear that kind of stuff, but I hear about the courthouse. And I also think that this historic fabric, or these buildings, provide us an identity. I like to be able to say, yes, I'm from Madison County. Here's my courthouse building. Here's my district that we have and be able to speak to that. That was a lot. I think I rambled a little bit, but that's okay because I'm a supervisor. Let me take a look at the time here. Right on time. We wanted to save the last 10 minutes for your questions. So if you have questions that you would like us to answer, please send them in.
I have a couple here. Well, Brenda is getting set up. I just wanted to put in a shameless plug for our Preserve Iowa Summit, which is going to be in Fort Dodge in June. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll be posting registration information. The dates are June 8th through the 10th in Fort Dodge, and we'd love to see you all there.
All right, Brenda Hollingsworth, here's the question. Could you restate that 75% statistic on heritage tourism, and is there a source for that? To restate it, it is 75% of all tourists who travel in relationship to not historic preservation, that would be nice, in relationship to heritage tourism. And heritage tourism is defined as something that stories about your community and your culture and preservation that interest people. All kinds of things are included in that. There are a couple of sources for that figure. You can go to traveliowa.com. They do a great job with statistics. If you go there and then click on the link called Industry Partners and then the link called Research, you'll get to the economic impact of tourism, and they list it by each county in Iowa. So that's helpful information. And then the other one I want to give you is preserveamerica.gov, G-O-V. That is a place where you can get great information from Donovan Ripkema, who does all kinds of very detailed work on economic impact of preservation in communities, and that's where that tourism statistic came from. Second question here is, for Madison County, what is your county budget at a county level? And I just need to clarify, are you asking in relationship to preservation, I'm assuming? We ask for and are granted $2,500 from the county each year and $2,500 from the city each year, because even though we're a county certified local government, we work with both entities. And then that's usually enough to provide the match for grants if we're applying for a grant. And it certainly is enough to provide for ongoing education for each of our commissioners. The third question is, how does the certified local government interact with the County Historical Society? That's a really good question. We get along great. One of the first things we did is we went looking for affinity groups that have already done work in the area that we were going to be working in and asked them for their help. Because the local historic society gave us a place to do our research every Wednesday for 2 years, we wanted to give back to them. So we helped them write a grant, and they got $10,000 to help with their archival project. So they're archiving photos and documents. So we give and take. We work very well together. It's a great relationship.
And this is Paula, and I would add to that we really do encourage the Historic Preservation Commission to work with partners, as Brenda said, that we don't want the commissions to be working in isolation. And so if you have partners like the Main Street office, for example, in your community, or the Historical Society, they are great allies and can certainly help make your project even stronger.
We had a follow-up question to you. Do you have any other towns in the county, and she's referring to Madison County, that participate?
Well, you know, we have just started to reach out to the other towns in Madison County. Earlham just recently got one of their buildings, the Bricker Price building, listed on the National Historic Register, and of course, because we're the county group, we got to review that, and that was great fun. And so we've spent some time at their city council meetings and with the person working on that to encourage them and see if there's any way we can help. One of the things we've done is we've just started having our meetings at different communities throughout the county. So we've now met at St. Charles, and we've met at Truro, and we've met at Earlham. And so we're trying to involve people that way so that we can find out if there's a way we can come alongside the project they might want to do there.
Yeah, another good way to get the entire county involved is to make sure that you've got county-wide representation on your Historic Preservation Commission. So don't have all of your members be from your county seat or your largest town in the county. Make sure that those little towns are represented too with a seat on the commission. And yeah, I love the idea of meeting at a different place around the county, and some commissions use that opportunity to take a tour of a historic building in that community and then adjourn for their business meetings. So that can also be a very good way to build connections across the county.
And just a quick housekeeping note that's in response to one of the questions. We will be placing the recording of this webinar along with a PowerPoint presentation. And I'll also put the links that you mentioned up there as well on our website. If you go to our website, www.iowacounties.org, under the Meeting and Events tab, webinar is the last item under that tab, and it'll be right up there for you to download.
And then this is our contact information, and so we would all welcome hearing from you if you have some follow-up questions. So this is how you can get a hold of us.
Yep. So the question is, have you ever done any expensive renovations to the courthouse or other county-owned buildings? How are these renovations funded by grants, county funds, fundraisers, etc.?
Yes, we've done some expensive restoration to the courthouse. Our dome project, just fixing the dome that has been leaking for so many years and letting water pour through our building and destroying a lot of things. Once again, deferred maintenance got the better of a lot of people and caused a lot of damage. So just to do the dome, it was $1.2 million to fix our dome. The county bonded, or not bonded, the county borrowed that. Yeah, it was bonded. The county bonded that money so that we could fix that dome, and we used our lost funds to pay that back. That's how we decided to do that. We recently then took on the next project of buttoning up our county courthouse by doing the roof. We needed to replace the roof because it was right old and leaking, and some of the substructure was rotted. That cost us about $330,000 to do that. We did that with part of a grant that we received from the state through the help of our Historic Preservation Committee getting that for us. We then took the county funded it right out of right out of our one of our funds that we had. From a county supervisor perspective, we had to, normally we like to end with 20-25% ending fund balance in there. Well, that year we ended up with only about 16% in there, so we took a risk. But I, as a county supervisor, if I'm sitting in my own house and the water starts dripping on my table, I'm going to go fix my roof. And so as a county supervisor, I took that role on, and so did the other two supervisors. We were going to fix that. So there was $300 and some thousand there. Our next project that we're going to do is our soffits and our fascia, which is right underneath the, I'm learning these architectural terms.
That's great, Eric.
Right underneath. It's going to cost us $250,000-ish to do that. We're bringing our fund balances back up so that we can do that. I don't think that we're going to be doing it this year, but I believe that we're going to try to do it in the following fiscal year. Get that one done. And so it's just one step at a time. Originally, they tried to go bond out $12 million to refurbish the whole building, and the community voted that down. So we're taking one step at a time. So I hope that answered your question. Yes, it's quite expensive, but I think you know, we're at about $1.5 million to fixing that roof. We'll probably end up spending another 1.5 just to kind of get the outside buttoned up so that the interior is not being destroyed anymore. I think that $3 million is well worth it. You know, people could argue, well, for $3 million you could go out and buy some new land and build a brand new building, but we would still be in the same boat with that building in 30 years. So we're embarking upon fixing our courthouse so that it lasts another 100 years. Hope that answered your question.
Brenda Hollingsworth, we do have a website that you can go to if you want more information, and I believe that that's going to be posted as well, MadisonCountyHistory.net.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys all for being here. This was an absolutely fantastic presentation, and we hope that you all enjoyed it. Come back for the next one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Goodbye.